So, Richard, my question to you now is, what can I do to protect somebody who is vulnerable? So I'm going back to thinking about my mum. We'd obviously got power of attorney in place, but
Good.
you know, as we said, things happen. What can I be doing to legally protect her?
It's a good question. And the important thing is that you sit down and speak to somebody. That's half the battle. Thinking that there's a problem and sitting down and speaking with somebody about it. Are we talking about protection for after you've gone? Are we talking about things that you can do in your lifetime to provide for that person? Where are we heading? What are your concerns?
So, just that she's safe. She's safe with her finances. She's safe with her decisions. That whether she has capacity or not isn't really, you know, it's about, I guess it's about her will. It's about whether she should be putting things into a trust. And I know that's a huge, big subject, which, you know, they do need to speak to you and get advice on.
Absolutely.
But in terms of the quick wins that we should be doing to protect that vulnerable adult, and, you know, what does that look like?
The most important thing that vulnerable adult can do is ensure that they've got power of attorney in place. That somebody else can look after their affairs if they take a sudden turn for the worst. So, and we spoke about that previously, Sarah, and if you haven't already listened to that podcast, I recommend you do. But that's probably the most important thing they can do. The other sort of concern that I experience an awful lot is people tell me that they've got a vulnerable person in their family and they're looking after them and they're dealing with their finances well, and then they start talking about how they're going to leave them large sums of money, either in lifetime, they want to make a large gift, or they want to leave assets on death via their will. And that's always a concern to me, because a lot of vulnerable persons receive some assistance, either from the state or from charities or otherwise. And the last thing that a parent should be considering is upsetting that apple cart by moving large swathes of money and assets into that vulnerable person's name. On top of that, vulnerable people are vulnerable. The last thing we should be considering is moving large sums of assets or money into their name, because the vulnerabilities might mean that those assets disappear, or it might mean that they are used to hurt them in a way.
Yeah.
So an example I might give, I might have my son, he's only 5, bless him, but he might have an addiction at some point in the future. I hope he doesn't, but he may. The last thing I want to do is to leave him a large sum of money in my will that might eventually end up killing him. So it's less how I advise the vulnerable person, it's more how I advise the people that love that vulnerable person on the things that they can do to ensure that that loved one, that vulnerable person, is able to maintain the lifestyle that they're accustomed to, but also that any inheritance isn't misused, misappropriated by people whispering in their ears, or unnecessarily affects their benefits or the state support that they're receiving. And the advice that we give is consider not leaving assets directly to that vulnerable person. Consider using trusts. Now, I hate using that word because it makes people go, ooh, what's a trust? I don't like the idea of that. That's what rich people do, isn't it? You know, I don't need one of them. That sounds fancy and will cost loads of money. It's not at all. It's an additional clause or two in your will that says, rather than passing assets directly to you, Sarah, I'm going to wrap them up in this safe spot over here, this treasure chest over here, and you've got access to those assets if and when you need them. So legally, they're not yours until the people that I've trusted to look after those assets say they belong to you. So if I find out, well, I won't find out because I won't be here, but once I've passed away, my assets pass into that treasure chest. Stevie, my colleague, is looking after it. She's the key holder. She's in charge. And those assets for your benefit. You've got to go to Stevie and you've got to say, Stevie, can I have some of that money, please? Stevie might say no. She might say yes. It will all depend on your circumstances at the point when you need that money. So if you go to Stevie and say, can I have £100,000 please? And Stevie realises that that will affect the state support that you're receiving, hopefully Stevie will say no. Would you say no, Stevie?
Yeah.
Good. That's the right answer. She might then say, well, I will buy you a car, Sarah. or I'll buy you a house, or I'll pay for your rent, or I'll pay for the cruise, whatever it might be. But she's not going to release all of that money to you that will effectively ruin the lifestyle that you're receiving. So parents have a responsibility, carers have a responsibility, not only in life for the vulnerable person that they love and care for, but also to ensure that their planning is correct and does the right thing when they die. We can help them with that, but they need to take good advice.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does help. It does help. Is there an age, and this is just me asking on my own selfish behalf, because I have two boys, as we alluded to earlier, that probably won't care about me and will just want their inheritance.
Oh, absolutely.
But being 19 and 17 as they are now, does the trust relinquish when they hit a certain age, or can I put that trust in place so that it's there regardless?
It's a really good question, and you can set it up however you fancy ultimately. So I could say, well, let's use you. You could say, Sarah, I want my two boys to receive my estate, their inheritance, whatever that might be, and I want them to receive it when they're 21 or 25 or 45 if you're being cruel. 55, why not? I had a client once that said, I don't want to leave any money to my grandchild until he reaches 25 because he'll buy a fast car and wrap it around a lamppost. And that's always stuck with me, because I can understand why he's done that. Yeah. Because at 21, 18, if I did receive 20 grand, I probably would buy a fast car. Or I would receive lots and lots of friends very, very quickly, and that money would disappear. You've just received loads of money, Richard. Do you mind if I come along to Ibiza with you and spend a nice weekend on your tab? These things happen all the time. And the more vulnerable the person, the more likely that inheritance will be squandered. So you might say in your will, I want my children to receive their estate when they reach 25. 30, 35, 40. Now there are certain tax rules that would take far too long to talk about as to why 18, 21 and 25 are a good idea, but ultimately you can pick whatever age you fancy. The alternative is that you don't pick any age and you do exactly as what we've just described previously. You say, right, I'm leaving your inheritance into this pot over here. Stevie's in charge. I've written Stevie a letter and I've said, if you're really good, you can have some when you're 25, but only if you're good. If you go to school, if you go to university, if you get a job, you can guide Stevie in whatever way, shape or form you want. And ultimately it's up to Stevie to decide when those funds get released. So if one of the sons, you pass away, the sons are 24, 23, whatever it might be, they come to Stevie and say, can we have some money? One of the sons might be completely sensible, morally, socially, the best person in the world, and Stevie might say, there's no issue with me giving this money to you, here we are. And she could release all of it or a small amount. The other son, not so much. If he received...
You know them well, don't you?
Do I? I'm sure they're lovely. But the other son, receiving a large sum of money might be the last thing you would have wanted him to do. So you trust that Stevie will hold back and drip feed funds to him, get him to a good place. The other issue that we see a lot is it's not so much whether or not the sons are in a good place, it's whether or not they've married well.
Wow.
I say that with, a grimace. But do we truly know our sons-in-laws, our daughters-in-laws? Now, if my parents-in-law are listening to this, I'm really nice, aren't I, Sarah? Lovely. But ultimately, if I leave assets to Harry, what I'm also doing is I'm leaving assets to his wife or to his husband. That's what I'm choosing to do. If instead I leave assets to this trust over here and I'm saying, Stevie, you decide when Harry gets it. If Stevie gets wind of the fact that Harry's going through a sticky divorce or the relationship is fracturing, the last thing she's going to do is give money to him. She might say, come back to me once you've resolved that issue and then we'll consider distributing. So vulnerability doesn't just mean that I've got an illness. It doesn't just mean that I've got a disability. Age is a vulnerability. Financial position, a vulnerability. And relationship status, a vulnerability. So once again, careful planning within the will, choosing the correct age or choosing no age at all, can really protect your children from themselves or from the issues they might be facing at the point where you pass.
That's really, really helpful.
Good.
It's very helpful.
We need to have a chat.
We do need to have a chat, and my sister's going to be very busy, isn't she? Good job she works for the Home Office, and she's a genuine good person.
Good egg.
Yeah.
Nice. You said that so you get a Christmas present, didn't
Absolutely.
you? Good stuff. Good.
That was really good.
Thank you, Sarah.